Blog Talk Radio.
There's been an awakening. Have you felt it? You are listening to Dark Matter Radio with your host, Ronnie. In this beautiful world. Welcome to Dark Matter Radio with your host, Ronnie McLean. We are welcoming people over there from Africa, Australia, all over Europe. We're trying to get some listeners over there in Russia. A little difficult, but we're trying. We welcome our Canadians, where I do call home at the moment, so and have been for the past, 12 years or so. We welcome all the people here in America and also Mexico, Central America, and South America, a worldwide program that we are proud that is going on now for the past 4 years. And we have had plenty of success, and we thank every single one of you for supporting not only Dark Matter Radio here on Blog Talk Radio, but also on our other platforms as well. Tonight, we are going to be talking about Breonna Taylor and the insanity of the African American. It's going to be a pretty short program, but I wanted to really get in there because there was an announcement from the Kentucky State Attorney General, Daniel Cameron, about the criminal charges in Breonna Taylor's case, set off a frenzy on local media and the streets of North America, as it did in so many other killings in North America as well. A new generation of protesters are getting the same results as the last generation. And yet, nothing has changed. This is the best form of societal abuse one can see, and the best form of insanity everyone on the planet can describe. Tonight, on Dark Matter Radio, we are going to get into the psychosis of the so-called African American with your host, Ronnie McLean. And yeah, here we are. We want to, we're going to get into the scientific definition of insanity from Albert Einstein, which everybody knows, right? And Albert Einstein said one of the most significant geniuses of our times, as they say. But he did use the definition of insanity as insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. Let me say that one more time. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. And this is really the craziness of it. I mean, on, I believe it was September 24th, an announcement for the Kentucky General, Daniel Cameron, who is what you'd call an African American, about laid down the charges or talked about the criminal charges in Breonna Taylor's case. It set off a frenzy, right, of all different types of things. Based on what he said, there weren't going to be any charges of murder towards the officers that killed Breonna Taylor. And it's interesting because, once again, we have a multiplicity of groups of people out there storming the gates of the castle with their pitchforks and knives and guns and all other kinds of things, expecting them to change a tune that has never been changed since the time they started taking power. They did the same thing in all the other cases as well. I mean, they did the same thing in the shootings of George Floyd. They did this the same exact thing. The same exact thing that they've been doing, protesting all of these different murders all over the place, and nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. I mean, they came out and said the reason why they busted in because they were in there for a drug warrant, and they were going to take the guy in jail. Apparently, the warrant was a no-knock warrant, and they, kindly knocked on the door. As they knocked on the door, they busted in, and Breonna's boyfriend started firing because he seen people coming in. Now, it is unknown how they identified themselves. It's still unknown. And they said that one of the officers got shot in the leg by Breonna's boyfriend's gun, right? So that he shot one of the officers in the leg. And I believe this all happened in March, right? March 13th, right? So this investigation that took place is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. So they came back and they're, charging them with a limited amount of charges. Whatever those charges are is very insignificant because as it was done, like in Black Wall Street, as it was done, like in so many other different cases, dealing with the indigenous American Indian, the copper-colored people of this land, what they've been doing is the same thing that they're doing still today. And then people expect that there's going to be a different result just because there is a quote-unquote black guy who's in charge. All of these people who are in charge are working for the system, working for a system that has absolutely no caring for the copper-colored races of this land. Now, why do I call you copper-colored races? Why do I say the copper-colored races? Because the definition in the 1828 dictionary, Noah Webster Dictionary, American, states that a Native of American originally applied to the Aboriginals or the copper-colored races. You're not talking about what they now call the Native Americans. You're talking about what they called the American Indians. And it says the copper-colored races were found by the Europeans, now applied to the descendants of the Europeans born in America, right? George Washington added that the name American must always exhibit or exalt the pride of patriotism. In other words, they took the land of the people and reclassified themselves as being the original occupants or being the occupants of the land. So they took the copper-colored races title and applied it to themselves. So they're not black, they're not African Americans. What they originally called were the copper-colored races of the Americas, right? And when you look at the copper-colored races of the Americas, you look at a penny, and a penny can be very shiny to very, very, very rich in carbon. So when we talk about Breonna Taylor and all these people out there doing all these things, we have to understand that, even with the new information that's coming out, right? Even with the new information that's coming out with a ballistics report, a Kentucky State Police ballistic report does not support the State Attorney General's Cameron's assertion that Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, shot a police officer. Interesting. The night she was killed. Cameron said Wednesday in the investigation of Taylor's death, March 13, ruled out friendly fire. Now, you have to remember Fox News, CNN, all these people are all over the news stating about how all of this happened and how people didn't know what the facts were. right? Because they said that the boyfriend shot first. So here we're getting a different story, right? And it's saying that on March 13th, ruled out friendly fire from an officer, Barrett Hobson, as the sources of the shot that went through Sergeant Jonathan Manley's thigh, prompting him and the officer, Miles Cosgrove, to return fire, killing Taylor in her own home, unarmed, standing next to her boyfriend, as they were busting in her home, right? The KPS report says that that due to the limited markings of comparative value, the 9mm bullet that hit and exited Manley's was neither identified nor eliminated as having been fired from Walker's gun. In other words, they don't know where that shot came from. Cameron said Haxon had been eliminated as the shooter. 3 officers carried .40 caliber handguns, while Walker had a 9mm. So, if that 9mm gun, if that 9mm bullet didn't come from Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, Breonna's boyfriend, Miles, not Miles, but Breonna's boyfriend, where did that 9mm come from? And as you can see, as everybody's out there doing the same old thing that they've been doing for years and years and years and years, the same old thing, the same old result is happening, which is an embarrassing, denigrating mess, which is putting every single copper-colored being in North America still at heavy risk of being killed anytime that they go out of their houses. In fact, the insanity is starting to get so heavy that when you listen to a lot of these things like that, they are now saying that as a result of the officers doing their job, they are now being hunted by black men. Black men are now hunting white police officers. And from my understanding about what's going on, really, it doesn't matter whether or not the police officer is black or white, whatever the situation is. It is the system. It is the system that is not geared towards a harmonious being in order for them to be able to place the copper-colored people in a way where they can feel comfortable on their own land. These so-called African Americans constantly do the same thing over and over and over and over again. And what's happening? They're getting the same old result, which is insanity. What we have to do is start thinking about ourselves as being prisoners of war in jail, and we have to get ourselves out of jail and stop being the prisoners of war, and then being able to coalesce with people, our being, and create a better world for ourselves. This is the reason why the Indigenous Nations of North America, which is not an organization, it is a concept which belongs to us all, have a really, really, really deep, profound aspect in creating freedom for us all. This is Ronnie McLean for Dark Matter Radio. Peace be with us all.
We're out here chasing a feeling up high, down low. We go from the floor to the ceiling. We fly, we fall, we get back up and try again. Some do, some don't, some do, some won't. I wanna feel the little, the little, the little, wanna live the little, the little, the little, wanna feel the little, the little.
This is Dark Matter Radio. Great Grand Rising to us all. Have a great night.